Hi, I'm Damien Humphreys,
I'm Luke Hindmarsh
and we are.
in Deep Crit.
Welcome back to part two of our look at the new optional class features presented in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Brace yourself. We're going to look next at the Ranger, which, frankly, really needed what Tasha's done to it. Starting at first level, replacing the Natural Explorer feature is Deft Explorer, and that gives you a number of abilities. The first benefit occurring at first level being Canny, which allows you to in effect have your proficiency bonus doubled for any ability check you make with a chosen skill, and you can also speak, read, and write 2 additional languages of your choice. Then at 6th level, you gain Roving, which increases your walking speed by 5, gives you a climbing speed and a swimming speed that equals your walking speed. Then moving on at 10th level to Tireless, you, as an action, can give yourself a number of temporary hit points, which is 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier, and a minimum of 1 temporary hit point. And you can use that an equal number of times to your proficiency bonus, regaining all expended uses on a long rest. Plus, on short rests, your exhaustion level is reduced by 1. Next, we have Favoured Foe, which replaces the Favoured Enemy feature and does work with Foe Slayer, and that's a first level ability. So when you hit a creature with an attack roll, you call on a Mystic Bond with Nature to mark the target as your favoured enemy for 1 minute, or until you lose concentration. And it's important to remember it uses concentration, so it wouldn't stack with, say, Hunter's Mark. And for the first attack on each of your turns, you do an additional d4 damage to that enemy. Sorry, first attack that hits. And you can do that you can mark a favoured enemy a number of times equal to proficiency bonus. You regain all of the expended uses on a long rest, and that increases it to scale up to d6 additional damage at 6th level and a d8 at 14th level. And I'll hand over to you,
Yeah.
Damien.
So next feature that you'll get is additional ranger spells at second level. This expands the spell list available to you from the player's handbook and Xanathar's guide to everything. There's some nice additions. Again, being half-casters, rangers only get up to 5th level anyway. There's some nice additions on there. I would argue Entangle should have always been on the Rangers spell list.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a couple of others that should have been there as well. But you do get access to 3 of the new summoning spells from Tasha's as well, which we'll cover in a future video. And then at second level, you also get some additional choices of fighting styles. So when you choose your fighting styles, the following styles are added to your list of options: blind fighting, which we've covered. If essentially means that you have blind sight within a range of 10 feet. So even if you're blinded or in darkness, you can still see within 10 feet, and you can see an invisible creature within that range unless it successfully hides from you. Druidic Warrior, you learn 2 cantrips of your choice from the Druid spell list, and they count as ranger spells for you, and they use Wisdom. And then Thrown Weapon Fighting, so you can throw a weapon as part of the attack. You can draw a weapon that has a thrown property as part of the attack, and you get an extra +2 damage when you make a ranged attack with a thrown weapon. The next feature that you get is a spellcasting focus, which was missed. I think was missed off the original Ranger in the player's handbook. So that you don't necessarily need all of the components. You get a spellcasting focus like all the other casters have the ability to get. So you can use a druidic focus as a spellcasting focus for your ranger spells. Could be a sprig of mistletoe or holly, a piece of yew, or another bit of special wood. Whatever you like, really. Just means you don't have to gather all those components for your spells. Back over to you, I think, Luke.
Then at third level, you get Primal Awareness, replacing the Primeval Awareness feature, and that allows you to learn additional spells when you reach certain levels in this class if you don't already know them. And I'm not going to read through all of them, but they are ones that totally fit with being a ranger. Drawing an example, speak with animals or locate creature, very thematic. You can cast each one of these spells once without expending a spell slot, so that is something that's different. Once you cast a spell in this way, you can't do it so again until you finish a long rest. Next up, we get that martial versatility feature, 4th level. Again, it's following the ASI, and that lets you replace your fighting styles to shift focus on your martial practice. I think I'll deal with Nature's Veil quickly. So that's at 10th level, replacing hide in plain sight. You, as a bonus action, become invisible along with any equipment you're wearing or carrying until the start of your next turn, and that's usable any number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and that again you regain all of those on finishing a long rest. I think that's it. So, what do you make of these, Damien?
Straight out the gate, they fixed the Ranger. Hooray! There was, if you're watching this, you're probably not new to the fact that the Ranger was a significantly underwhelming class as originally presented in the player's handbook. Some of the new subclasses I feel have added and have made certain subclasses of Ranger worth playing over the time.
Yeah.
But what this has done is fixed the whole class. Deft Explorer. This is really good. I think this is really nice. But doubling your proficiency bonus, so essentially expertise and a skill. It's not called expertise; it's called canny, but it's the same effect. And additional 2 languages. Always nice to have those extra languages for exploration and role playing purposes. And then roving at 6th level, this is very good. An extra 5 on your walking speed may not sound like a lot, but you then also gain the climbing and swimming speed equal to your walking speed, which is very, very useful. So suddenly you're not climbing or swimming at half speed. You are able to climb and swim at normal speed, and also because you have a swimming speed, your attacks underwater will no longer suffer disadvantage.
That's
you have a swimming speed.
Extreme. That actually allows you to sort of have a commando style ranger sort of situation, hiding in the water, dragging. I can see lots of uses of this. Maybe dragging an opponent into the water.
The old dragon stab, absolutely.
Yeah, a bit of Rambo style action. I think it's fantastic. Tireless. Temporary hit points, they're not hugely significant at 10th level,
right.
But I think, exhaustion reduction on a short rest.
Yeah, reducing exhaustion on a short rest. As I've said to you, I like the exhaustion mechanic as a DM. It's a useful way of introducing other hazards to a party and other difficulties to overcome, and being able to reduce that on a short rest is very, very useful. Especially if you've got one of those DMs who's set up conditions in an area where you can't benefit from a long rest.
Yeah, that rings a bell. I think with these, none of them are they're not OP. None of it's overpowered, but it just fixes, as you say. This is what we want. Haven't really considered how it synergizes with new subclasses, but obviously we're going to go through all the classes and have a look at them in depth, so we can analyze that there. But yeah, Ranger's probably traditionally been probably my favourite class to play, and it hasn't really been in 5th edition.
I think, and you're definitely not alone. I've always enjoyed playing a Ranger. I think there's many of us who played the previous editions that liked to play a Ranger that were disheartened by what was presented in the player's handbook.
Absolutely.
Disillusioned and downright annoyed with it. That's probably the strongest
word I can use. It's like they didn't care, to be frank. Whether they got bored or they decided the Ranger in previous editions was overpowered, or Anyway, partly fixed.
That's an
Favoured
entire,
foe.
Yeah, that's an entire different debate. Favoured foe. Yeah, this is nice. This is a couple of free hunter's marks, essentially. Scaling up with your proficiency bonus and scaling damage at 6th and 14th level as well is nice. It's important to note it does use your concentration, so you can't stack it with Hunter's Mark.
No.
But it does stack with the Foe Slayer feature.
It's not as good as Hunter's Mark to some extent, but it's not spending a spell slot, and it's just letting you really have that little extra bit of damage more often, I think. So I like it.
I think it's better than Hunter's Mark at low levels.
Do you?
Doesn't take doesn't take a bonus action. It just, when you hit with an attack roll. Hunter's Mark, you have to use a bonus action to attack first. So if you're that dual wielder ranger, you can go straight in and still get your second attack with your bonus action.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, actually. Okay, I'm persuaded. I think possibly if you were a sniper type ranger, it's less. I mean, but then you're using this on the weaker foes, aren't you? And you're still able to bump your, boost your damage.
Take the new custom origin and make sure you get the crossbow expert feat at first level, and then you're sorted.
Oh yeah. Additional ranger spells. I mean, we don't need to go into this too much, but they are, as you say, entangle. Nice. And it should have been there from the outset. These just make them have some better choice. Some of these I think are really worthwhile.
A bit more utility in the buffing, debuffing, and healing areas, I think. Yeah. No bad thing. Extra spell choices. Obviously, you don't get that many that you know or can cast in a day as a ranger, so maybe it might confuse people a little bit with all the extra options.
Yeah, there's that risk, isn't there? That's the problem. But
when we do our ranger breakdown, we'll discuss the spells that we think you should take, and also the ones we think that you should avoid taking. For various
bit of advice incoming on that, but it's good. I think it's a good selection. Fighting style options. Blind fighting is quite thematic, and I think it, as we've said, it seems to be quite an interesting option. Although whether you would ever consider taking that, playing, for example, a Gloomstalker, interesting. Druidic Warrior. You have something to say about this?
Yeah, Druidic Warrior. It's for rangers that can't spell druid.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that thing with paladins and clerics, isn't it?
It's okay if you want to take it. A couple of extra cantrips is okay. If you're wanting to play a more spell casting focused ranger, all power to you.
Yeah. Why you didn't choose to play a druid?
Yeah.
It's your own choice. It's all open and optional.
It's all about extra choices.
Thrown weapon fighting isn't particular. We don't, and I don't think either of us think it's particularly good. But it's about having a character, a concept, and playing that, and that's nice. And that, I think, both of our philosophies about creating characters isn't always to have an optimized build, but it's more interesting to have an interesting and varied type character, a concept, something that you can really get behind in role playing, something that's memorable, or at least as important as optimizing. But it depends on your campaign and your player, and your DM.
Spellcasting focus. I mean, this was an omission that actually I didn't realise was an omission until this came out. Because at first I thought, why are you adding that in? And then realising that the Ranger didn't have this option originally.
They spent so little time thinking about the Ranger for the PHB that they forgot to give a spellcasting focus. It's flavoursome though, now that they've done it. Teeth from sacred animals.
Yeah, it fits in perfectly well. A Wanderer Rod made of yew. I mean, I may argue as a ranger that my longbow's made of yew, so that is also my spellcasting focus.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily have your longbow always strung, traditionally.
True.
I'm not an expert on archery, but as I understand it, they didn't wander around with it permanently strung. So, Anyway. Yeah. Not introduce too much of that. Primal awareness. I mean, these are free spells basically. So cool.
They don't count against the number of spells you know, and you can cast each of these once without expending a spell slot. As you said when you read them out, they're all thematic. Speak with animals, beast sense. Speak with plants, locate creature, commune with nature. They all fit in very nicely with the ranger archetype.
Thinking about these, you can cast each of these spells once without expending a spell slot. That presumably doesn't mean that you couldn't then use a spell slot to cast an additional use of the spell.
Yeah, you could indeed. So that's cast them in the regular way. It just says once you cast a spell in this way, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest.
Martial versatility, I mean, great, you get to swap
Yep.
your fighting style. So when you realise you've made a mistake throwing weapon fighting, you want to go on to something else. You can do so. It's cool.
When you forgot to take archery at second level, you can change it to archery.
Oops. Or if you're a dual wielder.
Or two weapon fighting, exactly.
Two weapon fighting. Nature's Veil. I quite liked hide in plain sight. Of course, this is optional, isn't it? So you could still have hide in plain sight, but it did also suck. I might like the thematic feel of it, but this is a much more powerful, useful.
It's a scale up of hide in plain sight, exactly. Obviously, you still are bound by the restrictions of being invisible. So if you attack or cast a spell, you're going to become visible again. But yeah, to magically become invisible as a bonus action until the end of your next turn, that's quite nice. It's not overpowered. It doesn't last as long as invisibility does.
This is so. Like the last Ranger I played was in 5th edition, and it was a Gloomstalker, as you know. And this would synergize so nicely with the tactic of flitting from shadow to shadow. So you never see where I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
and then I shoot effectively invisibly from the darkness, and then move invisibly to another patch of darkness. So I would be keeping my enemies guessing with this. I think it's potentially very useful from a tactical perspective if you use it the right way.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure.
And again, thematic for a ranger, that unseen force of nature that is striking from beyond sight.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, just we could talk too much. We'll analyze it a lot, but I just see this as it should have been there. It should have been from the outset.
Yeah, indeed.
And there we go. So that's the Ranger.
So sneaking up on us next in a dark alley is the Rogue, and we're in Tasha's. The Rogue gets one new optional class feature, which you gain at 3rd level, and it's the Steady Aim feature. So with this feature, as a bonus action, you can give yourself advantage on your next attack roll on the current turn. And you can use this bonus action only if you haven't moved during this turn, and after you use the bonus action, your speed is 0 until the end of the turn. So essentially, stay still and take that shot, giving yourself advantage. Luke?
So if you are the rogue sniper, this is excellent. Again, with needing to have some kind of positional awareness, knowing where you are and that you're not going to get stuck. But this is, I think, really great for a rogue. If you're wanting to go down the ranged attack route, would stack really nicely with Elven Accuracy as well.
Yep. Indeed. Absolutely, it would stack with the accuracy. And I don't think necessarily always as a ranged either. If you're a rogue who's found yourself, you're not the swashbuckler. You're a thief, subclass rogue, and you found yourself against an enemy, and you don't have any allies within 5 feet of that enemy. But you've got to go toe to toe with them. You can, you're not disengaging. You're not moving away. You can use that bonus action to give yourself advantage, which then means you can use your sneak attack.
I slightly misled myself by looking at the nice artwork underneath of the Drow Rogue taking aim and was thinking, it can only be done with a ranged weapon. No, that is a good point, that this could also be hand-to-hand melee strikes.
I think it would more often be used as a ranged ability, but can also be used in melee,
Yeah, not to overlook that. Where I've got a problem with these optional class features for rogues, where's the roguish versatility? I'm not sure it would make any difference to a rogue, would it? I don't know.
I mean, what
would it be?
What things do they get that they could change? I don't think they necessarily need it. Rogues are pretty versatile, right? Everybody, and with
that's the thing, isn't it?
With the new character options, which we've covered in a previous video, at 4th level and every level that gives you an ability score improvement, anybody can change their subclass. So if you want that versatility, you can just change. if you're a thief rogue, but you find yourself more, trying to kill things from the shadows, then change yourself to a assassin. There's
I find it quite
there's
funny. They've
versatility
looked at
there.
this and there's like, oh, what? we can't add any versatility to a rogue.
Yeah,
Oh.
maybe that's why the ranger was so poor originally, because they just wanted to get on and do the rogues and give them all the nice things rogues get.
Yeah, that's probably right, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the rogue. Sorry, that's the longest, draggingest part of this video.
So this wraps up part 2 of our look at the optional class features presented in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. We will pick up with part 3 in the next video. As usual, if you want to continue to join us on this journey, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell to be notified of new videos. Even if you don't like what we've said, pop a comment in the comments below and let's have a conversation about it. Let's keep that conversation rolling. So until next time, see ya.